Welcome, this is Peter and Raphael with Tradewood Manufacturing in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. Appreciate you watching this video. We're going to show you today how to take a motor or a blower mechanism out of our very special liners, VSL. Very special because they're easy to use, easy to clean, very effective, best in the business we believe. Great engineering, and then along with the great engineering is the simplicity of repair, which we're going to show you today. So Raphael, would you take the filters out first? Notice you simply grab the knobs, and we ask that for safety and also for cleanliness, and you pull up, and you notice he pulled the bottom out, and then the filters come out. Very simple. And the same thing with this middle divider section. Lift up, pull out, and they come right out. And again, with the filters you use the knobs. That's for safety and also for cleanliness. Now notice you've got the blower mechanism. In our engineering, we put this very close where it's very easy to operate, very easy to install and replace. The tools that you'll need is, first of all, you need some kind of mechanism to test that the power is off. Make sure the fuse is off, make sure you've got it unplugged, or that you've remove the wiring and the power before you start working in your unit, and you can do it with a simple electrical unit like this. The only tools you need is you will need an extender like this. You will need a swivel type of bit, and you don't have to have this, just makes it easier. But I would highly recommend to have a swivel on top of that. And then this is a 3/8. And that simply fits in to your 3/8 drive. And then there is we use one of these, and you don't have to do it just this way, you can do it, or you can just get something like this and put it onto an extender unit, okay? What we use is, for ours, for speed, and because of the motors are pretty heavy duty installation, we use this, and of course you tighten it up, and then you got your swivel tip, 3/8 size for your nuts that hold the motor on. Okay, before you remove the motor, you'll want to take your light bar off. Now, a lot of people think they can just pull this down and unplug it, and sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So we ask you to take the light bar off, which Raphael will do. There's two screws holding the light bar on, right here, right here. Then there's a clasp along the top that holds it up here. Notice Raphael is taking the first screw off, and then he'll hold this tight while he takes the other screw off. One person can do any repairs on this unit. One person. This is how we've engineered the repairs if they're ever needed, which is infrequent, but do happen. So we've got both of these stainless steel screws out. Be sure to keep track of your screws. Notice he pulled down because there's a clasp all along here. Now what you do is you get your protector piece, right there, that blue thing. You get a blue cloth like this, and you put it right on your unit to protect your stainless steel. Now notice, here is your plug. Let me move this over. Here is your plug. Now another thing, the last piece of tooling you'll need is kind of scissors, wire cutters, 10 steps, whatever, to be able to cut these zip ties or wire ties. Give that to Raphael to cut that. And you're being very careful not to cut the wire, but the wire ties. Okay? Now notice it's loose. And now you can unplug the motor, and it's simply the two clasps on the right and left of the plug. It's just plug and play to pull this motor up. Okay? Now, this light bar can hang, because remember, this unit will be up in your hood section. This is the liner, and so this will be off to the side, and you'll put that in the back, just like that. And then now what you're going to do is remove the motor. Now, I'm going to simply point out how simple removing the motor is. There's 3 nuts, 1, 2, and 3, right down here. Now, what we've done is we've engineered a design where there is a tab that fits inside of a slot on this motor, so that one person can do it. So the first nut to take off would be the simple nut right here. This would be the first one to take off, because your clasp is behind the motor. You have the slot and the tab. I'm sorry, the tab is behind the motor. And so you'll take this one off first, okay?
You want to remove the grommet first. You're gonna lower the metal flange that's holding the grommet together.
So there's a metal flange on this piece of metal, and it just pulls down.
It just pulls down, and then the grommet, you're gonna turn it so that one of the things that secure it together is on the hole. And then with your finger, you're gonna press on the other side, and the grommet should come right off. Okay, so now this connector will fit right through the hole.
And again, this is part of the plug and play plug we're removing.
So now that it's off, you'll be able to take off your motor.
So here you go, Raphael. Now he's gonna take off this first screw, and remember, the last screw you wanna take off is the screw kitty corner from your tab and slot. Your tab and slot is below this, so go ahead and take this nut off first, Raphael. And you completely remove it. So make sure you're in your counterclockwise, remember lefty loosey, righty tight. So you're going left counterclockwise with the screw. And it's that simple. Now remember, your unit is up, so when you take it off, your nut driver or your socket will hold that nut up. Now, just a minute. You're gonna take off your second nut. This is behind the capacitor to the motor. It's very simple, and this is why we ask you to have a swivel. It makes it a little bit easier. Okay, go ahead and take off that one. So far, you've taken off the one nut here. Now you're taking off the second nut. Okay, so he's got that nut. So now there's just one nut and a tab and slot holding it on. The reason this is so important, as I said earlier, is what this will do is this will allow one person to be able to change this motor. Because the last nut you're gonna take off here will be this nut here. And when you take this last nut off, the motor is going to, again, because this unit is up in the air, will be hanging down. So what you do now is, all the nuts are off. It's a little bit harder at this angle when it's up in the upward position. You just have to reach out and it comes right off. And a lot of times it's good just to loosen them pretty much all the way, and then lastly, take them off with your fingers. Now, to replace this motor and this blower mechanism, the serial number is right inside of the filtering, underneath the filter, and you can order it. Also, you can show your electrician, we always put a wiring diagram. Also, the name of the unit is right here, VSL, and this particular one is a 436 RC. The RC means remote control. And of course, all of this is either galvanized metal, or what you see and what will be exposed is a stainless steel 304 grade. So now you're all unplugged and your motor is ready to take out. Now remember, when it's in the up position, this motor is going to be dangling, and you've got a beautiful stove here. What you should have done, and we didn't tell you right off the bat, is you should have covered your stove. It's good to cover, make sure it's turned off, make sure there's no heat, and cover it with a couple of blankets so that if a screw or something falls on it, it's protected. I forgot to say that. So now notice, this slot is behind this motor, so you're gonna move the motor to the left. Now notice our engineering. Notice our engineering here. We've got lots of room over here, and this motor is just about a 1/4 inch over here. You can't move it to the left. The slot must move where we've made the engineering room to the right, so go ahead. Pull it off the back, the screws, and by the way, it'll automatically be down when it's up in the up position. And the motor pulls right off. It's very important to hold this motor and blower mechanism by the motor assembly. This is all cut by lasers and turrets, so sometimes these can be sharp, and we would give you advice to either use gloves or be very careful about this motor. So then, you've already ordered a new blower mechanism, so you take your new blower mechanism and you're gonna put it back in. This is the tab that I showed you, or I spoke to you about, and showed you how simple it is to pull out. This tab right here fits into this slot right here. Now, why did we do that? I pointed out before, so that one repairman or one individual consumer can replace this. Now, this is why it's so important. This is frustrating if you don't understand. If you understand it, it makes it so simple. Now remember, your unit is up in the hood. Your liner unit, this BSL, is up into the hood. So you're gonna be placing it back in like this. And so you wanna use this motor as kind of a handle. You push it up, and you're making sure these screws coming out, they're welded on, are in the are positioned correctly inside of these holes. To do that, you make sure your tab fits into the slot, and then you make sure your screws go into the holes. Very simple. So go ahead. Now notice, or have you stand to the side, Rafael. Now notice what you're gonna do is you're gonna turn this motor a little bit. See, it won't fit in. Well, it will if you turn it a little bit like this, and then circular motion, slide it back into place. And I promise you, it's easier when the liner is up into the hood because gravity is helping you. Now notice, he's working on that slot, okay? So he will take that tab and push it into the slot first. That's gonna hold this forward top position, at least this whole side here. So the first, you're holding this motor up now on this side because the slot and into that that tab into that slot will hold this side up. The first screw to put on, not to put on, is on this screw or on this screw. I always do it kitty corner. I put this first one on down here. So when you're doing it, what I do is I loosen it up and I take the swivel off for this part. And I just simply put it like this. Now you can do it by hand. And I take the nut, and you put the nut right inside of the nut driver or the socket. You can set this right on there like that. You can just go right up in there and twist it on. Now in this application, because gravity is pulling on this way, we can't do that. So it'll go on like this, but I can leave this nut inside of my socket, and I can just simply push it on and turn, and see, it's established. Now let me show you one more thing about the nuts. Where's the lesson of that? Okay. Now these nuts need to be put on with the angle this way. See the angle? You've got plastic here that locks it down on top of the screw. So this nut will go onto the screw, and as it goes on, this plastic will lock it on. So you have to put it on the proper way. There you go.
The plastic faces you.
So he's already got the washer on. He's already got the washer on, and he's going to put the nut on now. Go ahead, put that nut on. Might be best to use this. You do it by hand.
I always do.
Okay, so he's just about got that nut on. Then what you do is you put your swivel back on, and be very careful because, like I said, these screws are welded on. If you put excessive force on those screws, there's an outside chance, probably not, but you could turn them off as you could twist them off, turn them off on any of them. So we'll give this back to you, put that back in, be sure to switch your forward position. And you can always use an extender with a hand driver too. Now notice he's got all the washers on, put the nut back on. This is the one, this is the side that you need that swivel to get around the capacitor. Okay, notice, he got it taut, but he didn't over tighten it. You don't need to over tighten it. This motor this blower mechanism was put back in with the slot and the tab. And then you have the nuts, the 3 nuts all the way around. Okay, so you can see, that's how simple it was to put a new blower mechanism in. There was 2 people, I was narrating, he was putting together. But I promise you, one person can very simply replace this. And then, once again, go ahead, Raphael. This pushes up into this little opening. Be very careful that you don't cut the wires when you're putting this back in. Put the plug together, plug and play. This is one of the geniuses. It's foolproof. You cannot plug this in the wrong way. It only plugs in one way. Notice, he just pushed that grommet up, that wiring grommet, and then he's going to tie that back up with a wire tie, which are right over here, excuse me. This is a zip tie or a wire tie. And Raphael will wrap that wiring up. The reason we use these wire ties is to get the wires up out of the way. It's easier to put the light bar back on. Also, it has a better presentation when you open it up. And that's what this is for, to cut the extra part of the wire tie or the zip tie. And then we're going to put this back on. This is the light bar. And remember, you're being very careful not to scar the stainless steel. Very beautiful, and by the way, very durable, but if you're not careful, you can scratch it while you're doing it. This clasp here for the wiring, for the light bar, will fit right onto this little tab all along there. And like I said, one person can do it, and while you're pushing it on, you're making sure all the wiring is up out of the way. That's what he's feeling for right now. He's feeling the bob. But remember, when this liner is up in the hood, gravity will hold the wiring out of the way when you push it out of the way. Right now the wiring's falling back down. And then simply you'll put the 2 screws back in right above the lights. And for sake of time, the 2 screws go here, and then you remember you take the filters by the tabs and push them back in. Okay? So thank you very much for watching, and I believe this will be a help to you.